Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Clause YouTube channel Strategic Frontlines. Today we have with us Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, PVSM, YSM, SM retired. He's the member of UPSC. And we will be discussing today how relevant is the Simla Accord. We know that following the India-Pakistan War of 1971, it led to the creation of Bangladesh, and Simla Accord was signed on 2nd July 1872 between Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and President Bhutto. And it's going to be 53 years now. The core feature of this accord, if we can say, is fourfold. Firstly, to resolve all disputes bilaterally and peacefully. Secondly, excluding the third-party mediation, including the UN. Thirdly, establish LOC, that is the line of control. And fourthly, most important, is mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. So my first question to General Shukla is, firstly, I would like you to give a more historical context to the Simla Accord. And then you can probably tell us whether it still legally holds true and it is technically still relevant. What are your opinions?
So, Roshan, good evening to you and your viewers. I must first clarify that I was Army commander once upon a time. So, former Army commander. Otherwise, somebody will charge me with falsification of facts. Having said that, you rightly pointed out to the, some of the details of the Simla Accord. But let me just tap into my memory. I was all of 10 then, and I recall this agreement being signed with, as you said, between Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And the real attraction in the process of signing the agreement were neither Indira Gandhi nor Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, but a very young Benazir who had accompanied her father to the Simla Accord. Now getting to the substantive parts of the accord, see, India has always been magnanimous. In response to some of the rhetoric coming out of Pakistan, may I point out the following. This accord was the consequence of the most comprehensive defeat which was, inflicted upon Pakistan by India under the very dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Gandhi and Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. I think it was the most comprehensive military victory in modern times. One of the architects of the victory, Sagat Singh, was compared with Patton. The dash to Dhaka was compared, with the Blitzkrieg. Why I'm saying so is that despite inflicting a crushing defeat, India was magnanimous. When Bhutto subsequently in his memoirs also said, or somebody said, I don't recall who, Bhutto almost pleaded with Indira Gandhi that he couldn't go back without an agreement. He was under severe pressure from the Pak army. So, that backdrop must be understood. And yet, when you come to the term, see how magnanimous and correct India was. The agreement, as you said, was signed on the 2nd of July, 72. Then I think Pakistan ratified it a little later on the 15th of July. India took a little longer on the 3rd of August. We ratified it. And as you said, the ceasefire line in Kashmir was converted to the line of control. Now, because of the nature of our victory, we could have converted it into a permanent international boundary. We didn't do it. That was the first part of it. We didn't link it to, the 93,000 POWs, so on and so forth. So we gave Pakistan a very fair deal. And Pakistan agreed to, as you rightly said, the bilateral nature of the accord, where it said, it virtually renounced international mediations and said that we will settle all our disputes through consultation, through dialogue, and neither side will resort to any unilateralism, in altering the lie of the LC or invoke any other legal provisions. This is very significant. Abandoning international negotiations, agreeing to bilateralism, and saying that they will not unilaterally, violate any of the provisions. That was the first point. It also said that we will henceforth resolve disputes, including Kashmir, bilaterally through dialogue. It certainly didn't say that we will resort to terror. I mean,
Yeah.
so the whole problem with Pakistan, it is not India versus Pakistan. As Mr. Shashi Tharoor eloquently observes, it is India versus terrorism.
Yes.
We have nothing against the Pakistani people, but we will not accept terrorism. I'm referring to this point, when they threaten with suspension. I mean, all that doesn't make sense. Let's get to the larger picture behind it. We also said we will normalize relations, and the backdrop was the new power imbalance. Pakistan realized that India is the larger power. There was prudence behind it. And may I point out to your viewers, the power balance or imbalance since then has shifted even greater in India's favor. We are $4 trillion, they are $0.38 trillion. Their forex reserves are $7 billion. We are what, $700 billion. वो कोई बात कर रहा था उस दिन, IMF loan वगैरह की $1 billion. An industrialist in Chennai can raise it in 3 hours.
3 hours.
What you take a year to get. I'm just pointing this out to the wiser people in Pakistan that when you shoot off, I wouldn't say your mouth, but when you shoot off, stuff like this, please recognize the new power imbalance. So that is the other point. As I said, we did not press for the CFL to get converted into a permanent boundary. We did not haggle with the 93,000 POWs that we had. In fact, Field Marshal Manekshaw went out of the way to treat them well. And it was all in a very, graceful, magnanimous manner, despite the resounding victory. And the other significant fallout or consequence of the agreement was that we said, listen, let's stop fighting. Let's redirect resources from conflict to the economic betterment of our people. How wise. And since then, Pakistan has to ask, what has happened to your economy? Why are you redirecting your resources towards terror and wasteful conflicts, which you know you will not win? We've just proved that in Sindhu. So I'm saying today is an acknowledgement to go far beyond the treaty and recognize these realities. It also laid the foundation for the recognition of Bangladesh.
Yes.
It was a new geostrategic reality. So, and in a sense, as you rightly pointed out, it was about bilateralism. See, all neighbors will have disputes, we will have disagreements. Let's resolve them through dialogue. In recent times, we must also, appreciate the Prime Minister's gesture when he took over. He called, I think, Mr. Nawaz Sharif for his swearing in. He traveled to Pakistan in the face of great criticism in India and made an outreach. He first agreed in Pathankot to call for joint investigations. And you came and said, no, it was a false flag operation. I mean, right in Pahalgam, some very learned people from Pakistan, including Mr. Najam Sethi, suggested that it was a false flag operation. So I'm just pointing out to you some of the ridiculous elements of Pakistani thinking. So Shimla is a good day to remind ourselves what the reality is, what your reality is, the Pakistanis. Where is India? Where are you?
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
And it is pretty impossible for people of the limited worldview of General Asim Munir and those around him to even acknowledge this. They're going to drag Pakistan further down into the gutter. That is so Simla Agreement was just not a set of diplomacies. It was just not a set of agreements. There was wisdom behind that acknowledge the power imbalance and let's settle disputes bilaterally through dialogue. Aapki bhi tarakki ho, hamari bhi tarakki ho. The people should prosper. The last point that I, okay. So I think I'll end here now. Let's
Absolutely.
If I may make just one more point, Roshan, I'll skip my mind.
Yeah.
Pakistan should also see why is it becoming a willing pawn in the larger design of China.
Yes.
There is this competition between India and China. But आप उसमें क्यों पिस रहे हैं भाई? China is using your military to test their equipment. It's all part of a larger game with China. We will tackle China. आप क्यों बीच में आते हैं? क्यों पिसते हैं? So it is I would also, my whole aim was to point out the provisions of the agreement, but the larger issues which intelligent people on both sides should debate and consider.
I fully agree with you, General Shukla. If you see, there is a huge disparity between India and Pakistan, whether you see geographically, economically, and what you rightly pointed out. And the treaty clearly states that you need to respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Now, if the terrorism is going to go on, that means the basic core area of the treaty is being violated. It is getting eroded. So, what do you think we need to do? Because this treaty is diplomatically very sound, because entire South Asian neighborhood, if we see all these points, the nations need to follow in order to get peace. But if you are going to not follow the basic principle of it, so how will the treaty go forward?
Exactly. So understand the provision. See, what did it do? Since 47, India and Pakistan fought wars, 47, 65. Pakistan tried every trick in its bag. I must also point out, so till we signed the agreement, Pakistan, I mean, in 65, it thought that it could take on India militarily. And in 71, we proved decisively that if you try to take us on militarily, we'd split you into two, which we successfully did. So the whole issue is, as I pointed out to you, that Mr. Bhutto recognized the new power balance. He was a wise man. And therefore, he, told his people that let's not waste time on this. For a while, General Bajwa understood this when he started speaking of geo-economy. So, focus on your economy, focus on your technologies, focus on your people. Don't waste your time doing this. And should you wish to do this, and see, they introduced some very imaginative provisions which were not there in the Simla Agreement. There was terror.
Yes.
And under a nuclear cover, you went on a terror rampage.
Yes.
I asked not only Pakistan, but my friends all over the globe, what kind of nuclear theology is this? That you can have nuclear weapons and go on a terror rampage. Usme bhi humne badi sehnshilta dikhai. We exercised strategic restraint. But when we ran out of patience, see what we did in Sindhu. May I just point out, I don't like to, but since, it must be pointed out to these people. On the 10th of May, you were naked, exposed, vulnerable. You had lost control of the air. We could have played merry hell. We chose not to. Once again, please recognize the power imbalance. कुछ आप अपने इकोनॉमी में इन्वेस्ट करिए, तरक्की करिए, फिर देखेंगे. So this is essentially the wisdom behind Simla Agreement, that recognize the new power imbalance. We will sort out all our disputes bilaterally. So whatever boundary disputes we have, and remember in 71 we had the power, we had the heft to impose on Pakistan, but we never did it because we are wise people. We know what happened in World War I and World War II, so we don't impose on the vanquished. So that must be recognized. And what are these threats that you're throwing out? Firstly, who violated the spirit of all agreements? You did it by resorting to terrorism. That is also behind the reason behind India's suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. The Indus Waters Treaty was premised on the fact that we will live in peace.
Yes.
It is not that you create, you kill innocents this side and water will flow. So not only will water not flow, there will be other consequences for you, which we demonstrated on the 10th of April. So as I keep saying, Op Sindoor did two things. One is it called Pakistan schoolboy bluff on terror. It is a schoolboy bluff. जैसे वो बच्चे नहीं डराते हैं. India has a power of consequence. It knows how to deal with you. And secondly, it underlined the utility of force in the Indian context. That we know how to use our military. It will always be restrained. It will be calibrated. It is precise. May I remind the Pakistani people, here is a professional military under political control. Yours is an unprofessional military which pox political control. That's the cause of your misery. So it is these issues which the Pakistanis must remind themselves about on this day. And there was a lot of wisdom behind the Simla Agreement. And I think we should stick to it.
Absolutely. I also, if we take the second caveat, also, if we find that we have always tried to solve the problem bilaterally, even in Op Sindoor, we said the ceasefire was taking place because the DGMO of the Pakistanis, they approached us. But on the contrary, the Pakistanis have a different narrative. So, what would you like to say on that? They have been violating this caveat also at their whims.
तो देखिए जो a weaker power will always have a stronger narrative. The strong don't need to shout. So we speak softly, but we carry a big stick. Since Pakistan doesn't have a big stick, it has no option but to wail, and that's what it keeps doing. I mean, look at the limits of ridicule. So just ask yourself, Roshan, what happened on the 10th? Where were the J10s? Where were the J17s? Where were the HQ9? They were absent.
Yes.
They couldn't take off. Hawa mein nahi the. You had lost control of the air. There couldn't have been a more comprehensive defeat, as you rightly said. I think Asim Munir made this call to Nawaz Sharif, and the DGMO went begging to our DGMO ki bhai band kar do isko. और उसके बाद आप ये narrative spin करते हो और अपने आप को field marshal बना देते हो. Succeeding generations will strip Field Marshal Munir of this rank that he has bestowed on himself because it is not a historical reality. So how do you grapple with ridicule? You tell me, what is this nuclear theology that under a nuclear cover you'll go on a terror rampage? और अगर इस तरह से आप बात करेंगे, if these are the metrics of your dialogue, then you have the Indian military to deal with. We don't speak, we will act. On a separate note, I must admit that there is a need to improve our strategic communications, which we must do. But that on another day. We did a very good job. Our strategic communications could have been better. But
Yes.
it's very different from Pakistan. I don't want to equate with them. You do nothing and you spin a narrative. I'm saying we did well. We should have spun a better narrative.
Absolutely. And there was a narrative in Pakistan media also that they are going to hold the Shimla Agreement. But if they do that, then what will become the status of LOC?
What does it
We
mean?
can also
So
infiltrate.
we have no problem. So let's see along the line of control, what will be the implications? So troops will not respect the line of control. Do you want cessation of? Do you want an increase in hostilities? Do you not know what's happening on your western borders? You have enough trouble with the TTA, the TTP. मेरे को तो यार दया आती है पाकिस्तानियों पे. The people, I actually feel for them because of the mess that their military is dragging them into.
Yes.
Not one weapon, not one piece of ammunition in their arsenal is their own.
Yeah.
It is all Chinese. तो भाई आप उसके फंदे में क्यों फंस रहे हो? The Chinese are smart. The Chinese, in order to keep India strategically imbalanced, use Pakistan. If I was China and I was a true friend of Pakistan, I would have said, stop secession hostilities, focus on your economy, grow, and then we will see. आपकी इकोनॉमी फिसलती जा रही है और आप ये सब करते जा रहे हो. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
So, jingoism without any substance. And now you threaten us with violating the Shimla Accord. Go ahead. But I don't see how they will gain.
Yes.
वो threaten करता है, it is all a matter of escalatory dominance. If I'm a superior power, I can escalate, retain dominance, wait for you to react. What do you threaten us with escalation when you have nothing in your arsenal? So I really don't understand. They had to do something. And the Indus Water Treaty, there are the reasons. The primary reason was that one of the bedrock of the Indus Water Treaty was on good neighborliness. It cannot be that you go on this terror rampage and we do that. And there are very respected sections of opinion in India which feel that the Indus Water Treaty is not a fair treaty.
Yes.
So we have the right to dialogue, revisit those provisions. Yet we didn't do. We did it only when you repeatedly provoked us on terror. So the whole backdrop is different. And now just to react, you say this. I just think, they are just, it's not serious business. the more informed people in Pakistan are aware of the consequences, which will be pretty disastrous for Pakistan.
General Shukla, I just wanted to ask you this China-Pakistan collusivity, or now it is becoming more of a fusion. How do you think it will pan out in future? I mean, Pakistan is literally dependent on the Chinese. About 80 to 83% of its defense comes from China. So in future also, Chinese will be doing, but there is no money with Pakistan, and we know. So economically, if it is not going to be very strong, how this, what you call it, collusivity going to work? And a short question also, as far as this US is concerned, the Trump and Munir relationship. If you can also add a little bit on that also, it would be good for our viewers to know.
So 2, 3 points. One is, in my view, Pakistan is a pest. The threat is China,
Yeah.
and that is where things get serious. Here we have to be now pretty real of what lies ahead of us. See, Sindoor may have been a good wake-up call, because it is my view that as India now gets into this bigger power game, we are the fourth largest economy, soon to be the third largest. China is determined to keep us imbalanced strategically. Despite all the protestations to the contrary, they would not like an India which, rises to its prime. Nor, for that matter, would the Americans who want that. So now we are in the big power game. We have to realize that India's rise, or our travel through Amrit Kal towards Vikasit Bharat, which is an entirely doable dream, will not be a walk in the park. We will have to plot our rise through multiple crises, confrontations, and conflicts. That is the serious point. Sindoor was the wake-up call. So we have to look at the totality of the threats. And here, see what China is very craftily doing. It's creating problems on our western horizons with Pakistan, a very willing Pakistan. Turkey is a larger design. Take note of the frequent travels of Mr. Erdogan to Pakistan, and vice versa. A lot of drone deals, so on and so forth. A lot of help in the maritime domain. And if you compound this with terror, it is a pretty serious threat along the western horizons. It is also China fighting India through the western horizon. So that becomes serious. China is also now creating a new national security reality in Bangladesh, Myanmar.
In the eastern sector also.
Yes. And it is now becoming a national security military challenge. And here, these travels of the ISI chief to Bangladesh, Mr. Yunus suddenly discovering landlockedness of the 7 states, Lal Muner Hart Air Base, see the nature of the Bangladeshi inventory, Islamism. This is a new reality. And if I'm in China, why wouldn't I do it? To keep India imbalanced along the western horizons and the eastern horizon. Then there is this 400-ship navy of the Chinese, which is not going to patrol the coastlines of China. It's going to come into the IOR. So our national security challenges are grim. We need to revisit the metrics of our economic statecraft, upgrade our defense spending, put more energy into this whole business of technological innovation, Atmanirbharta in defense, and invest in 3 things, 3 very important issues. One is stealth-enabled offensive aircraft. Now it's the HQ-19s, the J-35s are coming to Pakistan. The air balance may change again, so we have to be watchful. We should not, Sindoor is good, it should not get wasted in hubris. We have to see what we need to do. Our AD topology, look what's happened in Tehran. Look how the missiles of the Iranians penetrated Iron Dome. AD today is a very serious matter. Multi-layered AD of all kinds. And lastly, it is my belief, I have gone hoarse saying this for the last 3 years, we need a drone missile force. It's not an either-or option. You need a drone missile force to complement your aircraft. Now, these are the challenges before us. We have to be agile, fleet-footed, show the imagination to find the money. It's not, can we afford it or not? You have to afford it. Now, this is where things get serious. So this collusivity is in this form. It's not that the Chinese will open up a second front. It is already there. They are
Yes.
aiding and abetting Pakistan in everything, and they are creating a new national security reality. It's not that, as I said, they will, with Pakistan, they will open up the line of actual control. So, in this
Yes.
sense, it is my view that our strategic environment is grimmer than that of Israel. Look how
Nice.
seriously the Israelis take their defenses.
Yes.
So, we have to
And
step up our whole game. I saw some
I,
good news the day before of 52 satellites being launched in the LEO.
yes, I was
We
about
need
to
that
say that.
kind of,
Yeah.
ISR
Yes.
dominance. So some
Yes.
good things are happening, but we must step up speed and scale. Step up speed
Yes.
and scale and focus on the actual threats and not get unduly concerned about pets like Pakistan.
Absolutely, I agree. Our major threat is China. And what you rightly pointed out, space is another area where we need to do a lot. Hypersonics is one thing. We have done the testing, but it needs to be operationalized because that is another area where we need to get things a little faster. And I think probably here the civil and military fusion will help a lot. So, a line on that, if you would like to speak before we try to take some
So
questions.
I didn't get the last part. Your volume faded a
The,
little.
the civil military fusion, would you like to talk a
Oh,
little bit about
yes.
that? Yes.
That's my favorite subject. I'm writing a book. It's going to get
Okay.
released in 2 months. So, civil military fusion, just let me say one line. The reason why China is ahead of most Western democracies, including India, is because it didn't waste its time in civil military silos. It fused them very intelligently. It fused them, to gain proficiency in chips, in shipping. There is a Chinese shipping corporation. In 2024, it turned out so much maritime tonnage that it exceeded what the Americans have produced since the World War II. In AI, you are finding civil military fusion. Behind DeepSeek, you have civil engineers and PLA engineers. So, civil military fusion is really what we need to invest into. There are many ways of doing that. We could do a show some other time, but you rightly pointed out that if we invest in civil military fusion, it could be the secret sauce in reducing the growing asymmetry with China.
Definitely, we'll take another podcast where we will discuss in detail about the civil military fusion with you. But can we take few questions?
Yeah, certainly.
Uh, there is one question by Alia M. She says, Park's narrative is shaping global perceptions. We may be stronger, but don't we need to work on perceptions and narrative building?
Absolutely. So we need to, as I pointed out, so see what is strategic communications. And here is something, we must just reflect on. Strategic communications is not about being right. Strategic communications is not about telling the truth. Strategic communications is about winning the argument, about convincing the world about your argument. So it is about winning. It is about winning the narrative. This is something we need to understand. The week Asim Munir was in Washington, I also happened to be in Washington. I had gone to a couple of think tanks. What was disturbing was that Asim Munir was being dined and wined by every think tank, not only Trump. So Pakistanis invest in lobbying, they invest in these think tanks. Many years back, I had gone to IISS, London, and there I
Yes.
was briefed by a British brigadier who seemed to suggest that in Kashmir, India was the aggressor and Pakistan was the aggrieved. I had to point out the reality to him, and I discovered that why he said so because IISS had three colonels, Pakistani colonels to brief him. We had none. So we must take strategic communications seriously. In fact, I am of the view that the CDS should have a DG Stratcom, one of the sharpest officers from three services, who not only engages with the media, strategic communications about setting the narrative,
Yes.
engaging with the media, executing. So it is ideation, execution, and narration. So the smartest three-star should be doing what is DG Stratcom. He should be,
Yes.
in the same room as the Raksha Mantri, possibly the Prime Minister in conflict situations, shows that he understands what the whole thought process is. And it is just not, coming live during a briefing and addressing the media. It's about far deeper issues. It is also time, if we are a true joint force, what we saw this, Army, Navy, Air Force briefing this has to end. Most modern militaries have one briefer who is a joint
Yes.
warfighter, and he gives a combined briefing. And in the fullness of time, even this MEA, MOD briefing separately should end. It should be one gentleman who should be doing it. So strategic communications is not a one-trick pony. You have to invest in it, believe in it. But the basic question, I agree, our strategic communications could be far more smarter.
I think what you said is absolutely right, because if you see in major countries like if it is US and China or other countries, you should have your narrative and you should tell them there has to be. Pakistan does a lot of lobbying. I think that is one particular area we are
Forget,
not very
forget the West,
strong.
Roshan. Look at our Ramayana, Mahabharat. They are all
Yes.
about sutradhars. They were
Yes.
about narrators. So you not
Yes.
only act, you control the narrative. So the
Yes.
Indians, we were the best at doing all this. Where have we
And we
lost
have,
the art?
yes, and we are very good at narrative
Well,
building and all, but I think it's not getting somehow.
and you have to identify the right talent. For example, this. I just happened to see a play called Hamare Ram in Hindi, and it is by, I'm just forgetting his name. He's very good in Hindi. The name just slipped my mind. Why I'm pointing it out to you? Because he narrated and enacted the Ramayana in such a manner that it took the Ramayana to a new high. Diplomacy, statecraft. This is what narration does. Narration. So we have
Yes.
talent in India. Many of them can tell the India story so well. And sometime in the future, why not have a media platform like Al Jazeera?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
We
it
need to
is
have a
investment in
platform.
a whole lot of
Absolutely.
things. The tragedy is we have the talent.
Yes.
We have the talent who can tell the story so well. We need to spend on, invest in
Little
strategic
bit.
communication.
Yes. There's another question by Aryan. He says India's military behavior is shaped by doctrine of restraint and strategic autonomy with a focus on defensive and retaliatory actions rather than offensive first operations. What are your views on that?
Now, this has changed. Sindoor has changed all this.
Yes.
We are saying strategic restraint is a thing of the past.
Yes.
That strategic restraint has now changed into offensive poise. And offensive poise in the sense that if you do an act of terror, Mr. KPS Gill gave some very good advice. He said you will never win the war on terror by merely chasing terrorists. You will win it by overwhelming the adversary. This is what we did. When we hit Rawalpindi, we said we know where terror comes from. Punjab,
Yes.
that is where you will be hit. Rawalpindi, Rai, Wind. We said, what was the Noor Khan attack? It was signaling to the Pakistanis that your GHQ is not very far off. So we will take our strikes there. So I think this was very good offensive poise. And strategic restraint now is a thing of the past. It is more in line with what Mr. Arun Shore said in the context of terror. And I'm saying our fight is against terror, not against Pakistan. And the sponsors of terror from Pakistan. So what are we going to do? It is going to be not an eye for an eye, not a tooth for a tooth. For one eye, both the eyes. For a tooth, the whole jaw. And this is what the Indian military will do. And that is what the Prime Minister indicated that day. We have said, we have called out your nuclear bluff. It is a significant transition. So Sindoor underlined the utility of force. This is a new nation, a new military, a new normal.
Absolutely. We are creating new normal, and we have also displayed our red lines, what our red lines are going to be. So Pakistan needs to take all these things into consideration.
But Aryan and Roshan, having done that, there are graver challenges ahead.
Yes.
So national security is not merely about jingoism.
Yes,
it's about
absolutely.
getting technology right and a whole lot of other issues. So we'll have to work harder.
There's one question Rishi is asking: how is strategic restraint different from non-escalatory actions?
Okay, let me give you a good example. Go back to December 2001. The parliament is hit. Our parliament is hit. The political leadership, both sides of the aisle, a large part of it could have perished that day. We were a little lucky and our forces responded very well. It was a terror attack. The country mobilized. And in the midst of that mobilization in May 2002, he hits us in Kaluchak again. But you know, the Pakistanis wave this nuclear rattle, the West gets scandalized, and they put pressure on India. They say, don't go to war with Pakistan because you are escalating. Look at this. They hit our parliament, they kill 34 people in Kaluchak, and we are told to be responsible. And under that pressure, we exercise the doctrine of strategic restraint. Mr. Jaswant Singh says, and I respect him greatly, though I disagree on this, he says, my most taxing challenge was to teach the service chiefs how to exercise restraint. Can you imagine the service chiefs are supposed to fight or exercise restraint? But this, it became a matter of highbrow intellect, and we did nothing. So Pakistan said, "Ye bada acha desh hai, isko maro, ye kuch karta hi nahi hai." Somebody said, in a Urdu verse, he said, "Zulum wo karte the, sharmaye hum jate the." 2611, again we did precious little. This was strategic restraint. It became unproductive. And Pakistan thought, great, look what we can do. Also the gullible West. The West said that Pakistan would do the terror and India would be lectured to exercise restraint.
Absolutely.
So the victim was told, the victim was shamed, and the perpetrator was, people looked the other way. So this time we said, enough is enough. We will do what we have to. And we did it pretty brilliantly in politico-military terms, in terms of the politicians setting the agenda and in terms of the military executing it, and in terms of the nation coming together. Our narrative was led not by members of the proposition, but members of the opposition. Mr. Sashi Tharoor, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Mr. Owaisi. What a glorious moment for the nation. How wonderfully we have come together in every facet. Military, diplomacy, the larger politics. This is a wonderful moment. This is what India should do. This is how India should be.
So, General Shukla, one last question. Is it time for including military history in our educational syllabus?
I pity the officers of today. क्या पढ़ें वो यार? उनको tactics पढ़ना पड़ता है, technology पढ़ना पड़ता है. But in the larger sense, yes, there are great lessons from history. You see, it's not of including this or that. There is a lovely phrase, think like a man of action, act like a man of thought. You can't separate these things. A good soldier is both. He is everything. ये नहीं कि ये syllabus में डाल दिया, syllabus में डालो. People should pick up history books on their own. It's not कि आपके syllabus में डालने की बात. Mark Twain said that I was so successful in life because I never let my schooling interfere with my education. So syllabus is schooling.
Yes.
We should read on our own. This is the birth centenary year of General S.K. Sinha, soldier, statesman, diplomat. What a mind. At the age of 86, I called him in USI here to give a talk. I speak with pieces of paper. Here they are. That gentleman could tell you history from Chandragupta days to the Kitchener-Curzon dispute to the Higher Defense Organization without a piece of paper. Elephantine memory. This is what we need. He was a soldier. So certainly in your syllabus, but beyond the syllabus. You have today's soldier has to be proficient in everything. From technology to diplomacy to statecraft. Look at the CDS, look at the challenges before him. He has to orchestrate forces, he has to do the narration, he has to do the communications. So this is, any 3-star, 4-star, he has to be good at anything. So certainly, you have to read, you have to widen your worldviews. We must put all this in the syllabus of the Pakistan military. Their worldviews will enlarge. They'll go beyond terrorism.
Thank you so much, General Shukla. I know you are going out, but I'm really thankful for this podcast.
Thank you.
You could take time.
Thanks a lot.
Come here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great pleasure. Bye. See you.